Hello. We're live.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sky Notes podcast. Tracy and I are going to be talking you through, in fact, we're kind of sneaky peekalooing. Let's get rid of that third guy here. We're not supposed to show him yet. That was foreshadowing. Anyway, Tracy and I are going to talk you guys through what the astrological implications are for the Sabbats, which are 8 holidays, which include Halloween, or as we call it, Samhain. We call it a lot of stuff. So we're going to talk about the chart for Halloween, and we're going to talk through the wheel of the year and Samhain's place in that.
Yeah, and a little bit of I know nothing. This is so new to me. I feel like a bad astrologer for not having the witchy side down. But I had a feeling this is going to be kind of a new year thing. So I went and I looked, and yes, Samhain is a form of a new year.
Yes.
So we've got charts for what that new year looks like, this particular cycle. And we looked at it from both of our locations because we're very far away from each other. I'm in Edmonton, Canada, and Lillian is down in Durham, North Carolina. So this is going to be so fun. But we've already seen each other so much this week because we got the opportunity to be on Alex Trenoweth's show where she talks about films, and she looks at the stars of the films, compares them to the actors that played them, and then also looks at the debut of that film as the transits.
That's right, so in real life. And that episode should be coming out shortly. So find out what movies we picked and what we found out about those actors and people who they portrayed.
And we'll put a link in this episode's comments later so that you can go and check out her channel, because she was very generous in helping us, reminding audiences to follow us. So we would definitely like to put that out to her as well. So welcome everybody, and happy Halloween. Let's go. I'm so excited, Lillian. Tell me all about this.
This is great. So let me reintroduce that image. Just a moment.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, Lori. So I had a little chit chat with Tracy because I was trying to I was trying to be as clear as possible about the astrological relationship. And when you go anecdotally to look for information about the Sabbats, it's kind of the midpoints have the midpoints are the, Scorpio, Samhain's at a midpoint, and that's the only reference. But what I want to bring in is the richness that's already there. So I'm going to start at the beginning, interrupt me as you see fit. And the beginning for a natural chart and for this discussion is at 0 degrees Aries. And I was looking for a little pointer or something, but 0 degrees Aries is on the left side of the page. And on the interior, it says spring equinox. And this was the historical new year. But what I want to sort of talk about is how it's following the natural chart and what that does for the energy of understanding these Sabbats. So at 0 degrees Aries, we shift immediately into the vibe of spring, into newness. And at 15 degrees Taurus, we go into May Day, which is always on May 1st, but that's, I put a little tilde on that page because it changes where the signs are. And I was just talking with my husband because we were thinking like Samhain is on the 7th this year. That's when the 15th degree of Scorpio happens. So that's just not the first. And we were thinking like, but the other ones are really close. So I wonder what that vibe is, right? What we can ascertain about that shift. And I don't know what it is because this is just sort of laying it out. So we continue from Aries down to Taurus in the lower left corner. In the center at the bottom is Cancer, and that's summer solstice, Cancer at 0. We go on to Leo at 15 for Lugnasad. And I'll talk a little more about the richness of the stories, because essentially Aries is, the spring equinox. There's the arising of the energy of the planet and spring returns. Taurus, you want to be protective of that energy because it's little plants, but it's also, both of those are reproductive. Both of those are when we're fertilizing ourselves. When we get to the summer solstice, the king is cut down, and Lugnasad is the funeral for the king. And so this is the annual king who was decided on, who would oversee the fertility of the fields, and then would take this underground journey that they begin at the summer solstice. So there are a lot of layers, but just pulling back out to that lovely summer solstice that in the northern hemisphere is hot and full of, juicy berries and all kinds of yummy stuff. And then Lugnasad, where you're going to bake with those and share them, right? Like, that's part of the story. Then fall equinox happens at 0 degrees of Libra, which I think is lovely because it kind of, to me, says we're going to put a pattern around what we've received. We're going to observe patterns and create order that's aesthetically pleasing. So that could work for a harvest. That could work for relationships. That could work for prepping for the winter in the northern hemisphere. And then Scorpio, where we're at right now, is part of a natural cycle with humans where we go into the depths. We mourn our losses. We do an in memoriam. And in many cultures, I learn more and more each year about the days of the dead in Mexico, but every culture has some relationship to this. So I was friends with a guy who grew up in Germany in the 30s, and he said they would try to throw something over the house to get the demons out. And I always love kind of like the German, their vigorous childhood stories. So that is right there with it. But Samhain, we were talking about, the veils are thin between us and whatever exists outside of this reality. And so that's your people coming back to say, hey, and in the tradition that I follow, we would have a dumb supper, dumb like don't speak, where we would sit with, we'd imagine our beloveds who had passed, and we would get the food that they liked and make sure that that was there. And we would assume they ate it with us in silence because we were so tickled to have this opportunity where the veils have kind of thinned out and we can be back with our beloveds and give them the proper devotion. But there's also sorrow and how difficult loss is and how difficult it is to structure life around that. And then we go up, and winter solstice, 0 degrees Capricorn, is right before we celebrate Christmas. And I think that's really a cool thing, right? That we come with our resources to share and then have a party. I think that's just beautiful. And of course, Saturnalia springs to mind as a similar vein of inquiry. So that's winter solstice. And then we get to Aquarius, which in this natural cycle of astrology, using the natural chart as a metaphor, is at the end of the cycle. It's not quite the end, but it's pretty close to the end. So 15 degrees Aquarius, the condition we find ourselves in then is, it could be one of survival. And so if we're in the absence, or if we're in the barren cycle, right? If it's winter and nothing's growing, what do we rely on? Well, some of the most beautiful rituals I've seen around Beltane are about what stories do we have that will make life worth living for each other. And we gather together and we share food and we share stories with the intention to kind of pull each other through, to the next cycle, because it is time to devote ourselves. And then spring comes again. And so the circle is quite useful. And the chart obviously is integral when you think about it from a natural chart perspective. But I wanted to share that. And you can find these online, and they look really different, and they have a lot of bells and whistles. But I was trying to what is the ultimate thing that we can see from this? And it's pretty obvious when we put it in there. It's cardinal signs getting us started, and fixed signs, helping us through a little bit of chaos. And then a cardinal sign to kick us off again. And then a fixed sign to kind of let us put a structure in place, and over again, but no mutable. And I think when we get to the chart, that'll have some bearing, right? You were saying that.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I went and did my tiny little bit of digging I had time
Yeah.
to do, what I found out was, Samhain is pronounced Samhain if you're going by,
Solid.
like, the Celtic New Year origin, right? Because
Yeah,
that's where it comes from, right?
that's right.
And so when you say I'm just totally curious. So when you say, um, your practice, so
Yes.
has it divided and become something that is practiced across different, say, religions or spiritual practices?
Oh, that's a great question. So I wanted to do kind of a survey of who does what around these general times to see what other manifestations happen. I know at Christmas, at Easter, there are all of these different rituals all around the world. And I didn't get a chance to do that. But what I wanted to share about it is I started looking into sort of American Wiccan paganism. And I'll be honest, I just didn't want to grab somebody else's religion and clothe myself in it. And the person who resonated the most for me was Starhawk, who is currently doing permaculture. But she does the spiral dance, and she is part of the Reclaiming Collective. And so reclaiming is reclaiming ways that we can interact with each other that honor men and honor women, how we really are. And it richly interlaces Celtic stuff. But the rituals that I do are almost an improv. So looking at the people that I'm going to be with, what is it that we can do to kind of pull each other through this ritual? What is it that we want to get out of it? Because rituals, in my experience, which is rituals, they're not like a mass. They're not like it's like a prayer group, I guess I would say loosely, right? It's a place where you're going to have serious conversations. And then you're going to set the stage with a couple of different conditions and describe an outcome. And then that way, if those things kind of pop up as the idea, part of the idea, or part of how I've seen it work, if those notions pop up, you're getting signs, your intuition's activated. If the thing that maybe you don't want something, Samhain's the perfect time to unload stuff. My goodness. From the simplest ritual of when you go poop, you go, oh, thank God, all of this shit I don't want to deal with is going away. Or that's a terrible way to say it. All the shit that's not mine, that won't serve me, that has
That I don't
nothing to
need
do with
anymore.
me.
Don't need anymore.
That's it. Let it go. But you can also burn stuff. I will always attest to burning. You can break stuff, I'm sorry to say. You can donate it, but I would go look at our planetary charity video first, because you don't want to be careless. You want to be very, very intentional and thoughtful. And so one of the people that I do this work with brought how to make the stories the centerpiece of this ritual. Dumb supper is a tradition from Celtic lands. And I think I'm roughly 70% Irish, something like that. So that's the source of all of that.
Beautiful.
But yeah, there's tons. There's like hierarchical witchcraft, which I'm always like,
Interesting.
I think that's like Gnostic stuff. There's a whole just like any group of people who want to share spiritual time together, as soon as you form a group, it splinters,
Right. That
and then
makes total
another group
sense.
forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing, and when I was looking, because I wanted to draw up charts for, instead of
Yeah.
just a Halloween chart, so what are we marking? And so it's the sun, the moment the sun descends below the
Thank you.
horizon.
That's
Yeah,
exactly right. So when I say Aquarius at 15 degrees, that's the Aquarius sun at 15 degrees.
Scorpio, not
Well,
Aquarius.
yeah, for instance, Aquarius. But if I
Oh,
say Scorpio at 15, I'm
I
talking
see.
about, yeah,
I see.
Samhain,
Yeah, so I mean, the sun is not
the
gonna be
sun.
exactly at the right at the degree, because it's gonna be based on it's on the same day, and it's always on the 31st, and sun cycles don't generally work like that, right? They
No, so the holidays have shifted, and that's why I think I was sharing with you that I wanted to kind of introduce the idea of time because I love these circles as ideas to kind of put you into astrology, but when you can get them to move, that's really the exciting part. And one of the things that happened with time, my suspicion is these points activated people, and so they gathered.
right,
Time shifted when we did the Industrial Revolution away from whatever you felt it was or whatever the resonance of your place was, which we know as astrologers is serious and it has some impact, to, well, we're going to do bands of time. There's this many categories, dot, 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 dot. And no matter where you are in that band of time, you're still going to be at this date and period of time. So it shifted so much. And I think I was sharing with you that understanding, for example, Samhain happens on the 7th this year, or roughly the 7th, because you're looking for 15 degrees. But when I went back to look at the other ones, I was like, ooh, no, December 21st, roughly, yep. February 1st, roughly, yep. And I was like, wow, okay, they're all falling into place roughly, except for Scorpio. And so I'm not sure if that's the case. I have to go back and double check, but I wanted to kind of, call that out because um, it's interesting, right? Like
right,
how very like the other world or the mystery or the liminal space to scooch a little bit away. You know
right,
what I mean? To
right.
be a little bit hidden.
Yeah. Well, and this idea that this is the time when the veil is thinnest,
Yeah.
when we're ready to move into the charts for our prospective locations. This is quite an interesting year in terms of that energy for sure. So
Should we go
yeah,
ahead and move into them and then come back to this as needed?
sure. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
does that work for
curious.
you too? Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
nice. All right. So I think this is. Oh, and I don't want that. Do, 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 do. There we go. Now we can see everything.
Hey,
Are we in Durham? Okay, so we're in Durham. Now, this
yeah.
is well, as I was listening to you talk, and I was listening to you, the reverence for our past people. There's a reverence about what's behind us that's involved.
Mhm.
So, what's interesting is when we're looking at, I mean, I love me a good solar cycle, which is,
Right.
this what this is.
And I
And
do agree with you, it is a new year. What an amazing new year, right?
yeah,
It's literally the end
yeah.
and the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and so what's fascinating to me after listening to you describe it, so thank you, that was
Oh,
very
sure.
helpful. Yeah. Is that however much importance, weight, energy you put towards past versus future, if
Mhm.
you were to look at a chart like this, you can kind of see where that's going to fall because in this
Yes.
chart, I don't think you can't see my cursor, but so the
I
round circle
can't.
with a dot, if you're not an astrologer, is the sun, and it's just sitting below the horizon here, and it's at
Mhm.
8 degrees Scorpio, and so it's trying this moon up here in Pisces, and so that's an increasing moon phase. So
Wow.
this particular Samhain would be it's a good time to be looking forward and making
Yes.
sure that you're not only focusing on the past, because there's a lot of potent, beautiful energy here that, to help draw to you things
Hmm.
that are, especially in the emotional realm, in the energetic realm. We're talking Pisces. um, Operating from a place of empathy is going to be really
Yeah.
important this year with all of that Pisces energy, because we've got Neptune, Saturn, North Node, and the moon all sitting in
Woof.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about a thinning veil. And it's all sitting,
Right.
it's some of it's over there sitting in that 12th house. So this is, in terms of the potency of any rituals people are doing this Samhain, this is a powerful, powerful chart.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just want to say one little thing in
Hmm.
terms of the reality of our world right now. The
Yeah.
fact that you're in the US and that Jupiter in Cancer is sitting at the bottom right on that
Right.
IC, and all of the issues that, like, so Cancer can have a real, I mean, that's the natural house for Cancer. And so when
Yeah.
you're talking about mundane astrology, that's very country. That's devotion
Right.
to country, So to
Right.
have Jupiter down there, you know that this is a theme that's continuing throughout the year,
Yes. Yes.
just based on this chart. And this isn't the same where I am, but the things that we see in the Edmonton chart are very
Oh,
indicative
I'm
of
so
it.
excited to look at both of these.
So what do you pick up? What are some of the
Well,
things
I
you
think
see
I
here?
mentioned before how funny I thought it was. And we haven't found a pointer, but I'm looking for it. A pointer. Um, on the right side above the horizon, there's a red circle. There's the Mars glyph, and it's close to the Mercury in Sagittarius. And Mercury's, oh gosh, I can't describe the glyphs. I'll stop. Suffice it to say, what I felt like I was seeing is that in the houses where we interact with other people, the seventh house, the 10th house, I know there are more, but let's just start there. There's I love how, I think it's, oh gosh, I'm not remembering anyone's name. Forgive me. Uh, from the Mayo School, she says Pluto is fine if you have a purpose, right? Like Pluto functions if you have a purpose. And so I see that up there in the 10th house. And then I see the Mars in the seventh house. And my snide quip would be, uh-oh, everywhere you're touching in with other people, you're going to be pissed or focusing too intensely to pay attention, or there will be like support for big transformation, right? Those are a couple of the things I see with regard to the houses. And then that Uranus opposing the golly, almost to the degree opposing the Mercury, shenanigans are afoot. And being in North Carolina, I love Mayberry RFD, this old show, so cute, or the Andy Griffiths show, so cute. And they had this guy on the show. Uh, oh, I can't remember his name. This is so funny.
Welcome to my brain every single
Oh
moment
my
of the
gosh,
day,
it's so
Lillian. It's
funny.
so hard.
His name, well, it doesn't matter. It's sort of like rascally behavior, and
Right.
when I think about the South and I think about Southern men, they are such rascals. You know what I mean? It's um, like the amount of joy that they get about messing with people. It's not
Oh,
hostile necessarily. Certainly can be,
yeah.
but it's not necessarily, right? It's just vigorous. So it's that kind of rascally behavior, Don Knotts.
Racist on knots, yeah.
I cannot believe it. It's Roscoe P something. I cannot believe I can't remember his name, but that's all
Well,
right. Go
I
on.
was just gonna say that Mercury in Sagittarius, it's funny because Sagittarius sun, I remember when I was first learning the sun signs, always got, um, labeled with that foot and mouth disease,
Right.
the Sag, saying its opinions, whether they're asked for or not, coming out spontaneously, right? And I don't necessarily think that's true of Sag suns, but Mercury in Sagittarius is where I think that energy lives. And to have it
Exactly.
opposing the Uranus in Gemini, so it's Uranus, which is spontaneous, things just happen, you can't control them, being ruled by that Mercury. And Mercury's going to go retrograde right away here in
Yeah.
Sagittarius, which we saw last year, which
Yes.
was watch the internet, man. People's opinions get really wild. The fighting online is going to be just something else with Mars going into Sag too. And the fact that it's in like a
Right.
solar cycle beginning chart, this is some interesting energy we're moving into when it comes to communication and tech and everything in the next little while for sure. So yes, and I would say, based on both of these charts, people making sure that your energetic boundaries are well protected, because these are really, I like to say, porous, energetically porous charts when you have the energy of the Pisces on the 12th house, and also that's the hallmark of this point in time every year. So
Right.
to make sure that what you are bringing in is yours and it's good for
Yes.
you, and what you're putting out is the energy you want to get back, right?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
way I would look at the grounding, I mean, I want to do this again for the Edmonton version, but I love that Jupiter, so juicy down there at the bottom of the chart. Let that be the seed bearer, right? I've had some notion of, and this is a little personal, but I'm sharing it because I think it's important. I would love to take this time and ask our spirit guides, and not the shenanigans ones. I got that name. It's Ernest T. Bass, not that guy. We can always say when our ancestors come up and they were shitty to us in our real life, or you just didn't get along with them, or you couldn't understand them. When they show up, you can say thank you, bye, because you really only want the spiritual folks who rev you up and make you feel really powerful in yourself. And that requires authentic, genuine, honest people who are already doing that before they passed away, kind of thing. So, but the goal for this year for me is, what can we package up for kids? What can we do? Because I just feel for myself like I've sort of lost touch with that. And I know that it is in part because I'm not raising kids, but there's another component to it, right? Like, even if you are with kids 24/7, that way that they bloom is so unexpected that having distance may help. And so I'm just in my head like, okay, what does it look like this time? What does it look like this time? What could they use? What can I hear? What can I observe? And then put that in the ground. And I love the Jupiter in Cancer for that. But I also love the Saturn and Neptune in the 12th house. And so I wouldn't mind seeing the Edmonton version to see where they go. Because in
sure.
the 12th house, Saturn is, when considered a malefic, it's protective. And so this is a nighttime chart, and Saturn's happier up in the sky at night. And so things are kind of going, no, tell me again.
Okay, so how I
Say
understand it
again.
is, so Saturn and Jupiter belong to the sun,
Okay.
and so you want them to be where the sun is, right? Now,
Ah,
here, it's happy in the 12th house, that's good, but
yes.
because the sun is below the horizon,
Hmm.
then it's not with its friend, and it's the same with Venus and Mars and the
Okay.
moon. So
Okay.
that's
So,
how I get it
and
anyways,
the
and I don't.
nocturnal, I heard it as, and I'm not being contentious at all, that when the sun's below the horizon, that's when the Saturn wants to be in the sky, and when the sun's up, that's when Jupiter wants to be in the sky. But I don't know, right? That was
Hmm.
Moran, the medieval astrologer. So I'll have to go
Oh,
look that
interesting.
up.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But
Um,
but that porous component, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to kind of get to that last piece. With it being so veiled, it's sort of like, yeah, put out your good. Maybe we can put it this way, right? We're figuring out new plans. we're moving into, because you and I have the advantage of having seen all our old stuff. We're moving, as David Pond said, into brand new, or you said it, brand new energies. And therefore, it requires new tools and new techniques and new flexibilities. And so that opportunity is to create the boundaries that'll work for us. You know what I mean? Like, I love this jacket because it covers me just right. I really think it's pretty. It's a boundary that suits me. But if it was like a big puffy thing and I couldn't figure out how to get in the camera, I might be like, well, that boundary's not good. So to the extent that you can ground yourself with that beautiful Jupiter and put what I was sharing is personal, but the way I depersonalize it is I'd say, what do you want to plant? What do you want to see? What do you want to see in this spring? What do you want to grapple with? What is the thing that's on your mind all the time anyway? Plant that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing, it's so I am always the synchronicity I'm always just dazzled by, and the fact that I'm just learning this now at a time when like a celebration that's built around celebrating the past but also looking towards the future.
Yeah.
And then you look at this chart where the moon phase is giving us that renewal, but all those outer planets have gone back into their old signs, allowing us this one last opportunity to clean up whatever we need to clean up before they change signs in the Gregorian New Year, right?
That's right.
And so it's such a beautiful balance of both of those things. So it's, being introduced to Samhain at this time is just like blowing my
I
mind just
kind
the
of
way.
love it,
Yeah.
the sense of, I mean, I love spring. I love Aries. You know what I mean? I'm old enough to be grateful to see things grow. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas when I was younger, I loved to mope in the dark forever. But when Aries comes, it's like, oh my God, that feels fresh. And if you don't mind, if we go back to the chart, both Lori and Patricia, big love to you two. I reversed Imbolc and Beltane. So
Oh, I see.
yeah, so yeah, so I'll fix that in future, and I can make this available to folks. But thank you for pointing that out, because yeah, we were kind of running at top speed here to get these things together for you. So
Um, yes, our opportunity yesterday came very last minute, so yeah. So do we wanna go to the Edmonton chart now, or do we wanna go back
please,
to yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Let's see.
He added these fun graphics, except for I think they're
Yeah.
getting a little bit in the way.
Oh, they're
There we go.
so cute though.
So here we have the Edmonton chart, and
Hmm.
what's fascinating is that, all of these things moved, the moon, the north node, everything moved solidly into the 12th
Yeah.
house, this location. So if you don't know the chart itself, these houses in the pie is dictated by location and time. And so that's why it's going to look different. We're in a different time zone. So
Right.
right away that it's going to look different in that way because
Mhm.
the time that the sun descends below the horizon is going to be different from here to there.
So if
And
you're
so
on the West Coast, that's 1 over from Mountain Time Zone, which this chart represents. Um, and so it'll be slightly different again. So
yeah,
you may
yeah,
wanna look at the chart for where you are.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And so for us, the Jupiter's not sitting right on the IC like it is for
right.
you. It's solidly in the house. But what's fascinating from, the mundane stuff that's happening in where I live is so the person who runs our province has decided it would like to become part of the United States.
I
And
noticed that.
also at the same time, they pulled it's called the notwithstanding clause, which
Mm.
allows them to force people back to work. And so that's what they just did to the teachers. And
Oh,
so the 12th house is where secrets live and where stuff
uh,
that's happening behind the scenes. When things are in the 12th house, you don't have all the information. So the
right.
fact that all of that stuff moved very firm, and in mundane astrology, the moon represents the people. So something is being kept from everybody. So I actually, I have to say the cynical side of me laughed when I saw this chart, because it's like, oh, both of them, Jupiter on the IC for you guys, and I was just like, oh wow, we're really seeing the picture of what's happening for everybody.
Yeah.
But now from a Samhain point of view, that here where I am, this energy, this powerful psychic energy with everything in that 12th house is just got a little bit more punch, just because it's all moved down into that 12th house. And one of the things I wanted to say when we were looking at the Durham chart, it applies to everybody. With this much thin veil energy, this much 12th house, this much Pisces, if part of your ritual is to imbibe in any way with something that alters your mind, so whether that's alcohol or, it doesn't matter, you're not going to need as much. Be very careful at this time, because with that much energy, we are really susceptible to those things.
So that counts for prescription drugs too. You know, if you, like, for example, I take an anti-nausea medication, so there's a big range I can take. So if you have medicines that have a range, see if you can dial it back a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even I noticed this morning with meds that I take that I've never had side effects from, all of a sudden I had mild side effects. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're taking in anything, because I always like to look at for Halloween, what's the alcohol situation going to be like? Like, how wild is it going to be? Are there going to be fireworks in my neighborhood? And this is kind of a fireworks year. This is people will be yeah, a little bit more rambunctious than other years, for sure. The other thing that I thought that was interesting about all of these charts is we have Venus in its own sign of Libra, we have Mars in its own sign of Scorpio, and we have Jupiter exalted in Cancer. And when you have this much what we call dignity, life can be fragmented. So one area of life might be quite positive, and another area of life might be struggling. And so we it's beautiful if you're like me and my chart is all just one big clump. And I don't get to segment my life in that way. It's just not built. My chart's not built that way. So the opportunity to sort of just take care of certain areas of your world is more possible when we have this much. These planets are operating independently, because they get to do their own thing. So that's kind of a nice gift as well.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, I would assume from this type of chart that the difficulties could arise with folks who don't have a lot of water. The Mercury in Sagittarius is so funny, right? Because my sense of it is, as a Sagittarius Sun, Sagittarius Venus, I love a soapbox. I do love to talk. I will say everything that comes to mind. I don't have a filter. I think things are funny, maybe when we get really serious. Sagittarius, it turns fools and philosophers. And those things with Mercury can really rev a person up. You know, if it's in a strange degree or a tense degree to your personal Mercury, it may get you to be more rascally, a little bit more rascally. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way. People who are rascally, I find, can do extraordinary things. And so it's not that. It's, I don't know, don't hurt people with it. If you need to go do crazy things, go by yourself, you know,
Yeah.
or put it to good use, like you're saying. I mean, I do think this period of time is a great example of when folks need to hold on to the positive and need to create the kind of grounding or situation for themselves that allows them to blue sky or dream about what it is they want, because we need to lead the world with what we want. And I know that there's a lot of assumptions around desire or wanting, that it's flawed or inaccurate, but much more often I find that people are too overwhelmed to hear what people actually want. And so there's not enough space to get that information. And I think it's the key to moving us through time. So what I want is gifts for the next 7 generations. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. It's not easy. I don't care. I want cookies and time off, and I want what I want. But I love that how it puts me in my body and makes me feel like I can go forward. So, with both of these charts, you can see, if you wanted a blueprint for making a new plan, this is a great place to start.
Yes, I agree. Something to notice. So in the way I have Solar Fire set up, these charts are from Solar Fire. The elements are in a color. So you can see there's a lot of blue, which is water.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
see that there's a lot of lighter blue, which is air, and
Mhm.
fire would be red, and earth is green. And we don't have any planets in Earth. We have a couple points, but those don't count. Those don't ground us. And because on this chart, the ascent is, I don't remember if it's the same in the other chart, but the ascendant, yeah, is Taurus.
Yeah,
So to really tap into that grounding and bring what you're looking for to Earth, y- grounding is going to be a really important part of what you're doing, but it's also going to keep you sane and
yeah,
less frazzled than if you don't do it, especially if these are not the elements that you thrive in. Not all of us are
exactly.
gifted with a lot of water in our charts.
And I
Um,
find if you don't have a lot of water, or even if you do, I guess, right? Like if you have a lot, you kind of have to deal with it. So you're not like emotions, ew. But if you don't have a lot, it's really easy just to be like, cut that off. I want nothing to do with that. And that's where it starts to get tweaky and like a poorly set up trailer on the back of a semi or something.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because it's not good or bad because
Right.
somebody who doesn't have water, when we have a lot of water, there's the emotions are just so much more accessible. So it's uncomfortable because all of a sudden you're faced with the emotions. You don't get to ignore them. You don't
That's
get
right.
to cut them off as easily. And if you try, they're going to push their way in even more uncomfortable ways. If you are comfortable with water, you have a lot of water in your chart, well, it's a bit too easy to sit in those
Oh my
emotions
gosh.
and
Yeah.
not get out of them. So, I mean, both can be difficult and both can be gifts,
You're
it's
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I keep thinking of that Mars in the seventh next to the Mercury as being a little instigator. And so when I think of not being grounded, I think you are going to go off on the people around you. So prepare, right? Like if you're not if you're not okay with being uncomfortable, right, until it passes. And I believe I've got this on authority. You cannot hold on to emotions. I think I've tried it a bunch of times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so angry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and gone, right? Could be ADHD. But yeah, it could come out as anger or bossiness or something, and that's fine, but that's just you saying to yourself, there's a structure I can put in place to make myself more comfortable.
the other thing that I find with that combination of that Mercury in Sagittarius and the fact that it's going to go retrograde in Sagittarius,
Right.
which means that past stuff comes back
Oh,
to
yeah.
for you to look at, right?
Yeah.
With Mars and Scorpio, you can waste a lot of time planning somebody's demise.
Right.
Because that
Oopsie-doodle.
Scorpio revenge piece is you can't ignore it. And so, and with it is Mars, it is trine Jupiter, so
Yeah.
that's going to move off pretty soon, and it is separating, but that can make those revenge fantasies even more
So
loud.
what should someone do if they're having revenge fantasies?
Well, for me, that would be a moment of write the person a letter and burn it. Like let's
Okay.
just at this point in time, we're putting stuff behind us. Write a
Yes.
letter and burn it, you know?
I love that. Firmly put it in the past.
Yeah.
Give
Another thing
yourself
that
something material and then blow it up.
Yeah, yeah, and then another thing that can be quite shockingly effective is grounding, because all of a
Yes.
sudden you get back in your body and you're not
Mhm.
in your feelings and in your head. So that can be a really quick way to just sort of like get centered and get out of it. But also, we're lacking fire other than
Yeah,
that Mercury.
yeah,
And what happens when we don't have fire, and I've heard this a lot in the past couple of weeks, is that there's no inspiration. You know, I just saw an artist client and she's like, I haven't picked up a paintbrush in 2 weeks. Well, we haven't had any fire. And
right.
so if you're trying to be creative and you're trying to get inspired, but you're falling into your emotions, then maybe just light some candles. Have a bonfire if you live in a
Watch
place.
Steel Magnolias. That's what I do if I wanna have a good cry and not
Oh,
think
yes.
about it.
Right,
I
right.
mean, that's
But
another
also
way,
light the candles so that once the cry is done, you
the
get the
burning.
inspiration of the fire.
Oh, I love that.
You
That's
know what
really
I'm saying?
smart. Yeah. So I also think I'm so watery and I love baths. I have noticed, again, especially important to wash whatever off at the end of the day. And that can be part of a grounding or something. And it doesn't have to be really elaborate. I washed my hair in the sink in my studio the other day because I was like, I just want it done and I want to feel like I'm moving on. And stuff gets in my hair like crazy. I feel like I get other people's energy. So there could be a lot of that where, if you do get cross, what if it's somebody else's being cross and not even you?
Well,
You're
and
just
that is the
picking
danger
up.
with all that Pisces, right? For sure, that
Yeah,
you're picking up other people's stuff, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's really interesting. I
And
do
we
love that though. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking you could add a little astrological layer to your Samhain rituals with these planets in dignity, with Venus in her own sign of Libra. Maybe
Mhm.
your intentions, if that's the person who's the planet that's in charge of your year. So maybe you do a little bit of a Venus focus in your
Oh,
ritual.
fun.
Maybe
Yeah.
Mars is in charge of your year. So you want to do a little bit of Martian, please be
And
nice to me
how do
ritual.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. How do you find the ruler of the year again?
So you go, I'll actually put up the perfection
Oh,
chart so
cool.
people can look at
Yeah.
it. And then so every year is ruled by a house in your chart.
Yes.
So every 12 years, it goes all the way around. And what
Yes.
you have to do is you have to look at your chart in whole sign, which is putting 0 degrees on every house.
Yeah.
And so you move into that house on your birthday, and whatever sign is there, you figure out the planetary ruler. This is all traditional. So it has to be
Yes.
traditional rulers,
That's
it has
okay.
to be whole sign. I've tried this, I've tried to avoid the whole sign house
That's
thing.
okay. You know
But
what I'm hearing? You get an astrologer to
there's
tell
that.
you about the ruler
Yeah.
of the year.
Yeah. And so it's called your Lord of the Year, and
Lord of the
you
year.
know, working with that planet can bring mm, this is how I have found it's worked for me. Um, my path forward is much clearer. You know,
Yes.
as somebody who has a hard time focusing, as I've done this work with the perfections, it's easier to move forward. It's easier to see a clear path.
Yeah.
Um, the synchronicities are more obvious.
Mhm.
I feel like I have a bit of control, you know, I'm taking
Mhm.
action, so there's
Right.
an autonomy involved in that.
Yeah.
But it's not often that we get a lot of planets in their own sign, so if you can, you know, find out that one of these
You're
planets,
right. You're right.
Mars and
Yeah.
Jupiter, is your Lord of the Year, then
Yeah.
adding a little bit of ritual around that, even if it's just figuring out a planetary charity to donate to, um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
associated with that planet can be quite
Right. Or
powerful right now.
pictures of your loved ones that, especially the ones that map to that Venus and Libra. So artists, would you say musicians? I would say musicians. My goodness, that's kind of quintessential, right? The Venus
Definitely,
and
yeah.
Libra.
Yep,
Uh, the really yummy moments of being at home with that Jupiter down in the fourth house. And then that other piece, which is always then you observe, right? Then you observe what comes up because what we're sharing with you is the net, right? And then what you pull up is actually the treasure. So it's the what you can do to turn it around from I can only hear other people in my head why are they telling me what to do? I'm trying to get organized or whatever, which could happen with this much water and this much Pisces. You put yourself in charge by offering a place for yourself to listen to those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I mean, I treated this like I would anybody's birthday chart, any solar return chart in terms of sort of
Mm-hmm.
the themes, right, that I was looking for. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that this has got a bit of a yearly imprint to it. And so this being easily, or what's the word, having an easy time connecting to our intuition is a theme here with
Yes.
all of this, um using empathy, just because this
Mm-hmm.
is really, with all the Pisces, that's the gift that we're being given.
Mm-hmm.
But with Saturn back in Pisces with Neptune, again, we're being reminded about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Saturn and Pisces to me has been very much about, especially if you're a natural empath, and that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the lessons.
Yeah.
Then this is one of the callbacks. But this water energy is with us until next year.
Yeah, in
The
April, right? I mean, or a
Mhm.
little earlier than April, but
Yeah,
for
but
for
even
a
to the
time.
next Samhain, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
carry this all the way
Right, this is
through.
our imprint from Samhain to Samhain. So
Yeah.
here's this, when I think about it one more time, what is the highest that I want to achieve? What is it that I want my reputation to be? How close in alignment to my own spiritual requirements is that? Right? Like, am I giving myself up to that spiritual relationship? And then maybe there are boundaries to create in personal, close relationships, right? And that there's something coming in from outside, because Sagittarius can also be the stranger in a strange land, and so they can be bringing messages in. And that Mars and Scorpio, I mean, that can be quite yummy.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, the
yeah,
beauty of the Mars and Scorpio is the tenacity that it brings, and the
yeah,
ability for it to get down right to the deep roots of a thing, And so for
that's
those of
right.
us who tend to, like, I when you don't have a lot of water, the going to the depths isn't the natural instinct, right?
Right.
So this is giving us, I mean, we get a grand water trine, so we're getting all of the modes, right? The flexibility
Yeah. And there's
to,
something that started to occur to me. You and I were talking about with Alex, Christian Bale's chart and an aspect he had. I can't remember over the Chiron of the person he was representing from the film. And it might have been his Chiron on somebody else's sun. I can't quite remember. But the point of it was I had an image of a lens and kind of that under the boat lens, because he was at the top of the chart with this empathy, and I felt like he could see it all the way down. And so yeah, this water is sort of like offering you different perspectives. If emotional language isn't your cup of tea, you might want to think of it as a lens or a way to see deeper or a way to see further or a way to shift your perspective. My old trainer had a great description. He said, you can look for your car keys forever and then walk around to the passenger side and see that they've been in the door the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you give yourself something. And one thing this chart is doing is it's saying, look at something else. I mean, kicking off with that 0 degrees Uranus and Gemini, it's saying, look, go look. Or it's bringing you things that are like, hey, where did that come from? And it's okay. It's trying to kind of filter in things. You don't need to keep it, or like, I love that Carolyn Casey says, entertain ideas, don't believe them. And that she believes that, well, that she entertains that this is how we can get through tough times, is if we don't get stuck in our own beliefs. And I like that. I like that idea.
well, and we can't leave this unsaid that Uranus, the planet of autonomy and independence, is sitting in the first house of the self of
Yeah.
this chart, and with what's going on globally,
Yeah.
we're not can't be surprised to see that at all, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to say, you brought up David, and we had an interesting moment in our talk with him where I think he felt we all did the same kind of astrology, and we realized at the moment of the grand water trine that we
Right.
didn't,
We did
because
not.
because my interpretation of a grand water trine, although I mean, so trines are easy energy. Well,
Right.
easy isn't necessarily good, but we tend to, as human beings, put it in that category immediately. Easy, good,
Mhm.
yay. But what can happen when we're talking about any of the elements, in this case, it's water, falling into that emotional trap of and not being able to get out of it is really easy with a grand water trine. And so, that's something just to keep in mind, that if you feel
Right.
yourself
It's a
looping.
pull. They but, like, what's cool is the energy of Scorpio is a little bit it sucks a little. It wants to pull you in a little bit, and, that's not bad, right? You want that positioned away from wherever you typically get stuck, and then that way it can pull you out of it, you wanna use the energy in ways that can surprise you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a resource. The having that beautiful
Yes.
grand water trine is a resource, absolutely.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
with, nothing being strictly one way or another, it's good to kind of understand, especially for those of us who don't have water.
Right, 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 right. Well, and there's
You have
also
an air hole.
is there still the kite? I can't quite
I can't
perceive it,
tell.
because there was a kite with that grand water trine for a while, and the only reason I bring that up is because kites are an additional configuration with an opposition and some sextiles that take that grand trine from being kind of isolated in its own cycle. It has to come out, and it gets kicked off by different events. So it's not as stuck.
And
But I
thankfully,
don't
the
know.
Mars is moving off.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
So I don't it's not gonna last forever, but it is
Yeah.
something that will sort of linger, um,
Yeah.
maybe farther in than it normally would. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
look at that. Can you believe we actually smoothly got to the end of an hour talking about something that I knew nothing about?
I love it. Thank you for being willing to do that, and I will fix that handout, because in bulk is where I put Beltane and Mayday is Beltane. So I appreciate that feedback and appreciate you guys coming to listen to us. So
Yes, absolutely. It was great to have people here, and have a wonderful Samhain. I'm so
yes.
excited to learn this, Lillian. Thank you so much for doing
Yeah.
this. It
Oh,
was a
I really appreciate it. I think there's so much to get from, like, how we naturally gather and the words that we put to it, okay, but also we gather. Yay! And that's if I were to say anything in conclusion, it's like this is what we're doing to prepare ourselves for this holiday season.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Well, next week is a little bit different for us. I will
that's
be
right.
at this time likely very stoned and under the knife because I'm having a full knee replacement this time next week. So we're going to pre-record something beautiful. We're going to talk about the Venus connection to the love languages, which we were supposed to talk
Mhm.
about before but didn't get to. So we're
That's
going to
right.
pre-record that for y'all, and then we've got another idea for pre-record. So we'll be back live in a few weeks. Thank you, Lori. She's so
Thank
great.
you.
I
Yeah,
really hope I get to meet you in real life one day, Lori. You're
yeah,
quite lovely. Yeah. Thanks everybody for being
yeah.
here, and have a beautiful Samhain, and we'll see
And
y'all.
enjoy Halloween, for goodness sake. We were gonna wear costumes, but it didn't happen this year, next year.
Nope.
I did
Nope.
see a blue wig when I was picking out this necklace, and I was like, but not this year.
Yeah. Next year we will get fancy for you.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Lillian. Thanks everyone, and have a
Oh,
great,
thank you,
great day.
Carol.
Thank you, Corolla. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
we're all gonna hold healing light.
Thank
Yeah.
you.